Part 22. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 212. It would be fine if Chin Fan died by God's will. After all, when the city heard about Chin Fan's death, many people secretly thought that God would take care of corrupt officials. At this time, people were the most superstitious, and Ms. Chin was also worried that her husband had done all the bad things to get him into trouble. This kind of retribution was just a retribution for a woman of hers. No matter how scared she was, she could only cry twice. But when she heard that Chin Fan's death had another secret, she couldn't help but feel furious and angry. But any woman, no matter how generous and solemn she is on the surface, is not jealous when facing Huang Zhulang, the little boy she loved in the past. Now she sees that he came here with other intentions and took him away again. The Chin family has a large amount of property, and the demon killed the master, leaving his orphans and widowed mother with no place to live. Now they are guarding the remaining children, leaving the Chin family an empty shell, and they are unwilling to do so. Then, according to what the young lady said, who should I complain to? If Huang Zhulang was really a fox, even if she complained, she might not be able to sue the beast. Ms. Chin thought that Huang Zhulang was not a human being, and she was still a little scared. I'm afraid I know this person is a fox demon. No one dares to accept this kind of paper. Ms. Chin is going to complain to the judge. Tomorrow and evening, all you have to do is write out the complaint in advance, prepare food and drinks, go to the judge's temple, tell the details in detail, and someone will redress your grievances on your behalf. But you have to remember, if Chin Fan is innocent, if you don't do it, you will have your own reward, but your children are innocent. Huang Zhulang should not be so cruel. Even if most of what your Huang family left behind is ill-gotten wealth, it should be dealt with by the court, not Huang Zhulang. After all, he is not God. I understand in my heart. Lily had already mentioned this, and Ms. Chin said she was good at talking and nodded hurriedly. See, this is done. Lily felt relieved. Only then did he leave the Chin family. After nightfall the next day. At the third watch, Lily really felt that there was a gloomy atmosphere in the He family. In recent days, He Zixiao often called Huang Zhulang home to drink and have fun, taking the opportunity to do shameless things. Well, now that the underworld has come to capture Huang Zhulang, Lily can naturally feel it, and quietly gets up as well. In the hand of the bull-headed horse-faced man, He Zixiao looked much thinner in just a few days. He had a confused look on his face, and Nyotu said with some dissatisfaction, "Why did this person come here again?" Ma Mian glanced at him and replied in a low voice, "Although there is a wonderful medicine to suppress it, this person has been poisoned by a demon, so his soul is already unstable. Now that he sees our two brothers, his soul has left his body, so he followed come over. The two of them have been having a good time day and night recently." Although the imperial physician Qi Yuang had a good relationship with He Zixiao because Lily had given him hints. But these two people took medicine for fun time and time again, and they felt quite impatient. He Zixiao was no longer as close to him as before, and he looked embarrassed when he took the medicine again. He Zixiao was so beautiful that he was already confused. Because Huang Zhulang was now kind to him, he was even more interested in Huang. Zhulang couldn't put it down, so he saw that although there was less life-saving medicine, he still had luck in his heart, so he continued to have fun every day. Huang Zhulang only thought that he had medicine that could suppress the evil poison, so he didn't take it seriously. At this time, he was tricked. He was already frightened when he was about to be caught, and then he heard that his lover had almost been killed by him again. He was shocked in his heart, but he heard Niu Tiou sneer. "You can still do evil if God does it, but you can't live if you do evil on your own. Since this person is related to Huang Zhulang, take him back together and listen to your Lord's judgment." Lily followed quietly and heard Huang Zhulang shouting in fear that he was wronged. At this moment, the Qin family in the judge's temple was dressed in white and led a group of concubines to kneel on the ground, their heads wrapped in plain mourning, weeping and chanting about Huang Zhulang's sins. When Huang Zhulang was brought into the temple by Yinchi, he saw this. The scene turned pale with fright and his legs trembled. Bold fox demon! You killed 2 people in a row. Now that there are witnesses and physical evidence, what else can you say? The judge was really embarrassed when he received Mrs. Qin's petition. Logically speaking, Qin Fan's life and death book did say that he died due to a fox. Even if Huang Zhulang was guilty, it would still be in line with the judgment of the underworld. However, Mrs. Qin did not accuse Huang Zhulang of harming Qin Fan when she came. It is only mentioned that Huang Zhulang took away the Qin family's property, leaving the Qin family's orphans and widowers with no place to rely on. Now Mrs. Qin and the concubine left by Qin Fan still have many children to care for. Although the 2 of them may have died because of Huang Zhulang, therefore, he had no place to stay and was living on the street. The judge suddenly felt that his head was as big as a bucket. In fact, everyone has their own different destiny, and the children left by Qin Fan do have different endings. If it is said that Qin Fan's death has no impact on them, it must be false, but the judge cannot tell Mrs. Qin clearly. Firstly, she might not comply, and secondly, even if she did, if she leaked the secret, she would be seeking death. The judge was in a dilemma. On the one hand, he sent a messenger to the underworld to report to the Lord of Hell. On the other hand, he had no choice but to send someone to arrest Huang Zhulang. He could only hope that he could return the Qin family's property, so that the women could rest in peace. Then it calmed down. In fact, the judge was also a little dissatisfied. Even though he was responsible for Qin Fan's death, Huang Zhulang was too ruthless in doing things. He wiped out the Qin family's property and left no way for others to survive. No wonder the several women were forced into desperation, and now they had to resort to this last resort. My lord, please tell me." Huang Zhulang was so frightened that his legs couldn't help trembling. His cultivation was still shallow. Now facing the judge, most of his strength had been lost after his soul left the body and was captured by evil spirits. Now when he saw the judge looking ugly again, he became more and more uneasy. No matter how he killed someone, it was against God's will. Even if he claimed to be doing harm to the people, it would be fine if the underworld didn't come forward. At this time, the judge had already taken him, and I was a little scared. The little demon knows that Qin Fanyang's life is approaching, so he dares to take action. What's more, his own luck has run out, and he is harming the people at this time. He thought that if he can eliminate harm for the people, it can be regarded as a meritorious deed. Huang Zhulang was trembling. He was talking, but he was thinking of ideas very quickly in his mind. In the plot, he was rewarded by God for his meritorious service in eliminating Qin and Fan. However, the original Hu Sunyang did not wait to see that day because she broke her merits due to her practice. You should stop spewing nonsense. No matter how wrong I am with my husband, you are neither a saint nor a government official, so what qualifications do you have to decide his life and death? What's more, you are just a monster with evil intentions. I heard that you were Hezixiao was killed. Now that Hezixiao is reincarnated, the world has spread the news. You were ordered by him to avenge him. My poor husband, I was also killed by you. I dare to ask the judge. Sir, what is Hezixiao's ability? Why can he be reborn after being killed by a fox demon? Why do I have to be cursed when my husband dies? Even though he has a lot of wealth and a salary, this fox demon kills my Qin family. Move everything? If you don't uphold justice, I will die in front of you today along with my whole family in order to be innocent. Mrs. Qin covered her chest while crying and cursing. She was also filled with hatred. Now she opened her mouth and spoke, which made the judge speechless. In fact, people's fate had been arranged for a long time. Originally, Qin Fan should have died due to the fox. That's true, but Mrs. Qin's crooked explanation really left people speechless. The judge couldn't help but feel a little bit resentful towards He Zixiao. At first, he saw that he had great literary talents, but he didn't expect that this man could not understand yin and yang in matters between husband and wife, but he was also good at dragon and yang, which caused a lot of trouble. When disaster strikes, if he hadn't been killed because of his love for beauty the first time, how could he have been released before his life was over? If he had not caused these things, there would not have been the incident of Huang Zhulang entering the Qin mansion. Although each link was arranged by the underworld's life and death book, but if Mrs. Qin did not complain, naturally everyone was happy, but now that Mrs. Qin complained and He Zixiao made such a big fuss when he was reborn, the judge's face became ugly. Sir, He Shishan is also waiting outside the temple at this time. When Niudu heard He Zixiao's name, he flipped through the yin and yang book and quietly came to the judge's side to reply. We had just sent him back to Yang, and no matter how brave he was, he would not dare to seduce people's souls. At this time, He Zixiao appeared and was brought here. The only possibility is that he was poisoned by fox poison again, and saw the yin difference body yang. Lack of qi caused the soul to leave the body. Thinking of this, the judge was furious. Huang Zhulang, how dare you not repent? His face was originally cold and ferocious, but now he became more and more scary when he was angry. Huang Zhulang was still thinking about his idea, but now the judge was frightened and he trembled all over. Your Majesty, this is a warning, no matter human or animal, if you don't become an immortal and rank in the immortal class, then everything will be controlled by the underworld. Unless a powerful person can make people respect you, a little demon like Huang Zhulang will be scared by seeing the evil, let alone seeing the evil. The judge was here. Seeing that the judge was angry at this time, he was trembling all over, rolling his eyes, and said hurriedly, Your Majesty, the little demon has never harmed anyone again, and has chosen a beautiful wife for Master He to match. Now the two of them are already married. We are married. If you don't believe me, you can call my little demon cousin to come and you will know after asking. When he said this, the judge had not seen He Zixiao's face. He had previously thought that Huang Zhulang was just unwilling to repent and harmed others. Now that he heard what he said so earnestly, he couldn't help but believe it, and looked at the sinister figure next to him. After a quick glance and pondering for a moment, he still asked them to bring Lily back quickly. Mrs. Qin was still crying on the other side. Seeing that the judge wanted to let someone take her, Lily hurriedly rushed home. Her soul was solidified. Now she has practiced authentic Taoist magic for thousands of years. Even if the ghost has yin qi in her body, he came here under orders, but he couldn't take away Lily's soul. Only if she cooperated could these evil deeds take her away. When she was ready and brought to the temple by two undercover men, He Zixiao and Huang Zhulang were already standing together. Both of them looked pale. When they saw Lily coming, their eyes lit up. It was bright, and when Mrs. Qin and Qin Fan's concubines saw Lily, their eyes suddenly widened, and there was a bit of surprise on their faces. To be continued. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 213. Is the person here the Sun Yang of the Hu family? After learning Lily's identity from Huang Zhulang, the judge asked first, and then handed him the life and death book by chance. He asked casually. Once he opened it, his expression changed, and suddenly became a little serious. He looked at Lily as if he couldn't believe it, and then nervously flipped through the life and death book again, and sweat broke out on his forehead quickly. You but called Hu Sun Yang? That's not right, that's not right. In this life and death situation, why can't I find your name again? There are only two possibilities for such a situation. One is that this person is already in the immortal class, because he is no longer under the control of the underworld, and he will not enter the reincarnation of life and death. This is the case for a serious immortal with a title, and the other situation is it is because this person is so powerful that she breaks away from her own shackles, so that the underworld has no strength to control her. Even her strength is already higher than that of Lord Yan, so the underworld cannot control a life and death person with her strength, because the world between heaven and earth has no control over her. It has its own set of rules. The past life and death in the underworld were all determined by destiny. Once this person is no longer controlled by destiny and can no longer control her, the yin and yang in the underworld will naturally not be able to use that kind of magic power to help her go there. The fate of life and death will be determined in the subsequent life. This situation is like the so-called going against heaven, just like many practitioners. It's just that it's not difficult to understand that such a situation happens to human beings. After all, humans are loved by God. Empress Nuwa created humans to accumulate merit and become saints. Humans are born from the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. They are far superior to other types in practice. But now a fox has also for such a situation to happen, even the thousands-year-old Fox King on Fox King Peak would never be able to reach this point, an unknown little fox demon. How did you do it? The judge refused to believe that Lily was amazingly powerful. Look at the lily. At most 1,000 years old, a monster who has practiced for 1,000 years is still no match for a human who has practiced for 50 years. Although Lily has no demonic aura at this time, in the judge's opinion she must have used other methods to cover up the situation of life and death. Happened, making Shenshenbo unable to calculate what she was about to experience, as well as the time of life, death, illness, and death. I am Hu Sunyang. Your Majesty called me here, but what's the important matter? Lily responded with a smile. At this moment, she didn't feel as nervous or scared as Huang Zhulang and He Zixiao. Instead, she looked at these two people very calmly, and then bowed to the judge. Your cousin Huang Zhulang once wanted to ask you to testify that he did not harm Shishan He, so I called you here. The judge's expression changed drastically at this moment. His heart was already in panic, and his eyes only staring at life and death. He didn't pay attention to Lily's expression. As soon as he said these words, Lily looked a little aggrieved. Please make the decision, sir. Huang Zhulang doesn't know what he means. He wants to deceive me into having sex with you. He Shishan, cover up the shameless deeds of the two of them. Their behavior is despicable and shameless. I hope you will severely punish these two villains and make the decision for me. As soon as Lily said these words, Huang Zhulang was shocked, and then his face showed a bit of panic. He really didn't expect that Lily would say such words at this moment. He thought that Lily had already suffered a loss. Accepting her fate, she married He Zixiao, and she should obey her husband when getting married. Unexpectedly, she wanted to sue him at this time, and she seemed to know what happened between him and He Zixiao. Huang Zhulang felt uneasy. At this point, he originally thought that Lily came over to say a few good words to him, causing the judge to let him go on the spot. Then he went back to Fox King Peak to beg his parents to come forward. Unexpectedly, the person he invited was not a helper but a killer. Huang, even though Kuro was smart, he was a little panicked. Oh, the judge asked casually. He originally wanted to ask Lily to give personal testimony on this matter and let He Zixiao back. After all, this man neither violated the law nor committed murder or arson. At most, he was just greedy. What a good man, now his life is at risk. It's a pity that this man still has a long life, so he can't be taken back to the world at will. If something happened here, he originally thought of isolating Huang Zhulang and He Zixiao, but he didn't expect it to happen now. Such an injustice happened. Your Majesty, after Lily finished speaking, she told how Huang Zhulang and He Zixiao had discussed how to trick her down the mountain and hand her over to He Zixiao, and then He Zixiao would get her in order to make a living. After that, she was helpless. I had no choice but to talk about marrying He Zixiao. This method is indeed not fair and honest. The judge looked ugly after hearing this. Mrs. Jean and others also showed some sympathy on their faces, but Huang Zhulang was extremely flustered and hurriedly said, "That's not the case. The little demon has learned some skills in observing physiognomy. He knows that Xiang Gong he will be a very popular minister in the future, and he is married to the cousin of the little demon, so he makes the decision without permission. Although the method is not fair and above board, brother He Xiaoyao knows everything about who he is, and he will definitely fall in love with his cousin in the future." As soon as he finished speaking, the judge still had a gloomy face. Huang Zhulang seemed to have remembered something and pointed at life and death. Bobian said, "If you don't believe it, sir, you will know about Sunyang's yin and yang." At this moment, the place where Hu Sunyang was supposed to be on the yin-yang book was completely blank. There was no sign of marriage. Under such circumstances, the judge was even more dissatisfied. He thought Huang Zhulang was talking nonsense, and he believed it even more. What Lily had said before made sense, thinking that these two men were originally both men, and they were supposed to marry women and have children, but they decided to divide their peaches by cutting off their sleeves, and were born on dry roads if there was no waterway. Now in order to cover up, they actually want to. He came up with evil ideas to ruin the woman's life. He became more and more dissatisfied with Huang Zhulang, and said loudly, "Huang Zhulang, you harmed people's lives, and He Shishan's life was not meant to be extinguished, but his soul was separated from the body. The first crime is, read you didn't do it intentionally, but He Shishan insisted on going your own way. I punished you for 10 years. Although Qin Fan's death was justified, it was inseparable from your malicious harm. Although this move was for the sake of the people. It is harmful, but if you have evil thoughts in your mind, you will have merit in eliminating the evil, and the merits and demerits will be offset by the merits." When the judge said this, he seemed to be afraid of Mrs. Jean's dissatisfaction. "It's just the Qin family's money. You have to return a small part of it so that his orphans and widowers can survive. You are so content with Master He, why do you want to take innocent people again, dragging people into the water? You are not the underworld, you do not control people's life and death, you are not a Yulao, and it has nothing to do with you to protect the matchmaker. You have made your own decision, and I will hand you over to Hu Sunyang. Do you accept it?" At such a point, how could Huang Zhulang still be convinced or not, under the roof? I had to bow my head. If he still refuses to accept it now. In the end, he was just asking for trouble, so he responded lightly, glanced at Lily timidly with a pair of big watery eyes, and whispered, "It's just adults. If my cousin hates the little demon and wants to take his life, then what should I do?" Before the judge could speak, he heard a loud voice, "You must not commit suicide in vain. If you believe in your fate, I will make the decision for you." The bull-headed and horse-faced people all knelt on the ground. The small judge's temple was filled with gloomy energy. Everyone was trembling with fear. Only Lily practiced the Taoist orthodox mental method, which could overcome the evil spirit, so this meeting not only was not afraid, but Yan Jun felt a little uncomfortable. After the figure appeared, he couldn't help but move farther away from Lily. How could I have killed brother ninth brother? If I had killed brother ninth brother, how could I apologize to my aunt later? All I have to do is beat brother ninth brother back to his original form. Just reflect on it. Lily has been waiting for this day. Of course I won't take Huang Zhulang's life. But she wanted to bring Huang Zhulang back to his original form. It was so difficult to practice as a demon. Huang Zhulang was stained with karma. Now that he was practicing again, he would not be like when he was clean and transparent, and he would not suffer thunder disasters or disasters. If a monster is knocked back to its original form and rebuilt, it will be almost as difficult as trying to achieve Taoism and become an immortal. Those who are beaten back to their original form will die after almost 100 years. In addition, the judge just punished Huang Zhulang for killing He Zixiao. 10 years of longevity. It can be seen that even if he does not kill him from now on, the shadow of death will always weigh on him. If he wants to be able to practice to become immortal as before, then he has made the wrong idea. Such a request was cunning, weird, and vicious, but it left people speechless. Yan Jun's expression changed, and just when he was about to say that God has the virtue of good life, the thunder in the palm of Lily's hand was already launched, and he struck Huang Zhulang with one palm. I wonder if it was because she was struck by the nine heavens' divine thunder many times when she became the Dragon King of Jinghe. In this life, she practiced the five thunder technique very smoothly. Even if the thunder she struck cannot be compared with the real heavenly tribulation, it can, but it is much more powerful than the thunder struck by the thunder god and the lightning lady. As soon as Lily used this move, everyone in the temple couldn't bear it. Some Yin Chai souls scattered for a few times. After Huang Zhulang screamed, a group of Gui Chai finally used their yin power to stabilize their souls. By then, Huang Zhulang had transformed into a yellow fox the size of a domestic dog and fell motionless to the ground. Yan Jun's face looked a little ugly. He had to be merciful and merciful. Although Beihe's move did not nominally kill Huang Zhulang, doing so would be worse than killing him. A person who was already the fox who cultivated as an adult was beaten back to his original form. From now on, he can only wait for death, and he will have to carry his merits in the next life. Even after death, he may not be a good person in the next life. He hurriedly picked up the yin-yang book and opened it to read, and sure enough he saw it written on it, Huang Zhulang, caused the death of He Shishan, caused the death of the corrupt official Qin Fan, died at the age of 1203 years, if one's sins are not cleared up, one will enter the animal realm in the next life. The previous handwriting that Huang Zhulang was supposed to live to be 4,000 years old is now slowly disappearing on the yin and yang book that shines with a faint golden light. Lily actually changed the result in one fell swoop. Even though it was just a small thing, it caused huge consequences. It is very serious. Tears welled up in Huang Zhulang's fox eyes. Even the judge who just looked at him displeased could not help but sympathize with him now. Looking at Lily, he became a little angry. Evil beast. You must be spared and spared, after all, we are of the same clan, how could you be so cruel and cruel to kill him, you? Lily frowned. She was willing to hand over Huang Zhulang to the underworld for punishment, but that didn't mean that she was really afraid of the underworld. The Taoist mental skills she practiced were the nemesis of the underworld. Plus, even if heaven came to take her, but if she is strong enough, then questioning the guilt is just a matter of situation. When she became the Dragon King of Jinghe, she suffered too many thunders, so she is not afraid of disasters. Her body has been tested by herself, even if it is a member of the clan. She has experienced such power when someone suffers a natural disaster, but it cannot kill herself. Besides, even if she dies, as long as she can fulfill the wish of the original owner, then her death will be worthwhile. To this group of people, their death might mean they were wiped out, but to her, it was just a matter of moving on to the next story, so she didn't care that much. Didn't I tell you to let me deal with Huang Zhulang? Lily said in a soft voice. Yan Jun thought of the scene when she just summoned the thunder and lightning, and then thought of the thunder and lightning she just summoned. Even he was quite afraid of it. At this moment, was already a little cautious in his heart, and then saw Lily's unscrupulous appearance, and saw that she was still just out of the body and had already summoned a spell with such power. If the real body was here, I'm afraid the underworld would suffer even more today. I just don't know when such a character appeared in Fox King Peak. The matter has come to an end, you can take care of yourself. Although Huang Zhulang was wrong, his crime will not lead to death. Now you. The judge's face froze when Lily asked, and then he sighed, pointing to the side with a fearful expression on his face, and there was another feeling in his soul. He Xiao, who was filled with a hint of death, said, you were fascinated by beauty twice, so that you planted such a cause and effect. You are also responsible for Huang Zhulang's death. If you were not greedy for beauty and had evil intentions, you would not have died. I have ended up like this. Marriage between a man and a woman is the most important thing in human relations. Yin and yang communicate with each other, which is the right principle. Cutting off sleeves and dividing peaches will inevitably lead to ugly things that people can't bear to look at. There are 3 types of unfilial piety, and having no heirs is the most serious. You have violated the 1,000-year-old etiquette tradition, and you will cause harm today. People will eventually harm themselves, even if they die for others in this life, they will be repaid in the next life. When the judge said this, he raised his hand to Yan Jun again and said, "Please forgive me, sir." Yan Jun was a little worried about Lily's strength, but he also looked at He Zixiao, who was looking worried and uneasy. In such a situation, we only need to cut off its thorn roots and block its way to welcome him. As soon as the words fell, a smile appeared on Lily's face. This was the result she wanted. It didn't matter if He Zixiao died once, but what if he killed Huang Zhulang and let him have this breath in this life? What Lily wants is for the 2 of them to carry their sins from generation to generation in this world until they are paid off. The only difference between conspiracy and conspiracy is this. Conspiracy only makes people suffer for a while conspiracy, when used well, can cause people pain for a lifetime. The chickens outside were already crowing, so the judge quickly sent He Zixiao and others back. When Mrs. Jean saw that the great revenge had been avenged, Yan Jun asked Huang Zhulang to send money back. Qin Fan really deserved what he deserved, so naturally he would not dare to make trouble again, except for Huang Zhulang, whose result was changed by Lily. Everyone else can be said to be happy. When everyone came out, Yan Jun originally wanted to ask Lily a few questions, but then gave up. After dawn, Huang Zhulang had turned into a yellow fox and was dying. He Zixiao once again sent himself to the guillotine because of his greed for beauty. He groaned to death for 2 days before dying. Because his lifespan has not expired, there is no advantage in the world for him to be reborn as Taishi. I only heard rumors in the palace that a certain servant woke up and claimed that he was the famous scholar He Zixiao. After making a joke, he was finally beaten to be honest. He Zixiao suffered in his life, and had karmic debts after his death. It is conceivable that he will be affected in the next life. He has always been a man and a woman, but now he has become a purified eunuch. He can be regarded as a great man. Retribution. After Huang Zhulang was beaten back to his true form, his condition worsened day by day. When his mother took him back, she stared at Lily with a look of resentment on her face. She just thought about it and knew that her son had done something wrong first, so it was difficult to condemn Huang Zhulang. Zhulang and He Zixiao naturally divided things between them. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 214. Lily returned to the starry sky again. Li Yangzi was already waiting for her. When he saw her, he nodded lightly to her. The mission is completed. In this mission, I don't know whether it was Li Yangzi's illusion or Lily had really changed. She seemed to be different from before. She was a little more decisive in doing things than before. She seemed to be a little more decisive than before. Li Yangzi saw that glancing at her, he saw her lowering her head and smiling gently. After experiencing many missions, her temperament had settled down, which made people feel comfortable. Hu Sunyang is very satisfied and would like to give you some attribute points. Where do you want to add these 2 points? Li Yangzi saw that she was just smiling quietly, with a bit more firmness in her eyebrows. He suppressed the urge to ask her why she changed. Instead, he got down to business. Lily said directly without thinking, I want to add it to my spirit. Having already expected such an answer, Li Yangzi nodded, and with just a wave of his hand, a light curtain appeared in the starry sky. Gender, female, variable. Name, Lily. Age, 21. Intelligence, 65, out of 100. Appearance, 65, out of 100. Physical strength, 62, 100 full points. Force, 33, out of 100 points. Spirit, 23, out of 100 points. Reputation, 17, out of 100 points. Skills, 9 Yang Manual, 9 Yin Manual, Heaven and Earth Gate Tao Te I Ching, Southern Gu Technique. Specialties, Intermediate Cooking Skills, Advanced Acting Skills, 5 Elements and Bagua Skills. Charisma, 35, out of 100. Collection, Corpse King's Love, Saint's Blessing, Angel's Heart, Dragon King's Promise, Fox's Charm. Although when I completed this task, I had already guessed that I might get a benefit from completing this task, but after all, it was all just my guess. Now that Lily really saw that there was Huzhame in the collection column, a slight smile appeared at the corner of her mouth involuntarily. What if? Is it possible to re-enter that world after completing a mission? Lily bit her lip. Suddenly he asked. The scene when Li Yangziu, who was also her teacher, friend, and companion, died in front of her, made her dare not think about such a scene now. After the completion of this mission, she couldn't help but ask such a question. Li Yangziu's expression paused. He glanced at her, as if he understood what she was referring to, and there was a faint brilliance in his eyes. Then his eyelids drooped again, blocking the thoughts in his eyes, and he said coldly but with a strange firmness. Yes, as long as you have a certain level of strength. Lily's face suddenly lit up. Li Yangzi's words seemed to give her a hope and opportunity, giving her a little more persistence in her non-stop tasks. She clenched her hands tightly and straightened her back. I want to get back on the mission again. She will definitely persist until that day and fulfill her regret. When she was dizzy and had difficulty opening her eyes, Lily felt pain everywhere in her body. She moved her body with difficulty. Every inch of his body felt tiny tingling pains, especially between his legs. The slightest movement made her take a breath of cold air. She was naked and covered with bruises. She was lying on a pure white Western-style bed with a quilt. And messy clothes were thrown all over the floor. Lily endured the discomfort and went down to get a quilt to cover her body. The soft white cashmere carpet allowed her to feel the very comfortable touch even if she stepped on it with bare feet. She had not yet picked up her underwear and put them on. Another door in the room was suddenly opened, and a tall figure with a lean and powerful figure was coming out of it at this moment. Water was dripping from his dripping black hair, which ran down his strong chin and along his sexy lips. His Adam's apple slipped under his well-defined and strong chest, and his smooth black curly hair blocked his eyes. He could not see the man's face clearly. He could only see the sharp and shaped chin under the thin pale pink lips. He was not wearing any clothes, his upper body was bare, and his lower abdomen was wrapped with a bath towel. When he came out, he threw the slippers aside and walked towards Lily with his bare feet. This man has a lazy and dangerous feeling about him. When he moves around, his long and powerful legs can be seen vaguely in the towel that is not tightly tied. He has a vague and non-existent sexiness, which is very provocative. People. Chin Bei, my patience has its limit. You'd better settle down and don't think that my wife can only be you. You are a poor painter, but you can take it seriously. When the Chin family gave birth to you, you were born with can the blindness be cured by a mediocre doctor? When the man stared down at Lily, with the faint light in the room, Lily looked up and saw his eagle-like eyes, with a bloody aura hidden in them, as if Lily had said the wrong thing. He could reach out and strangle her to death without saying a word. Lily's whole body suddenly became stiff and she didn't speak. The man in front of her gave her a dangerous feeling, and he was not very powerful. Having entered so many worlds, Lily had a certain vision. The man in front of her had a certain fighting ability. If only in terms of skill, he might be better than he is much better than an ordinary person, but among the men Lily has seen, he is not the best, but he has a very strong murderous aura. The smell of blood condensed from the murderous intent all over his body makes his eyes cold, even if he has just been washed. Although he was taking a bath, there was also a slightly sweet and cold feeling on his body, like refrigerated blood, which made people feel chill just by looking at him. Be good and don't challenge my patience again, otherwise I won't take the Chin family seriously. The man smiled slightly. He was extremely tall, and his powerful arms under his broad and powerful shoulders moved easily. He picked up Lily, put her on the bed, and then pressed his sharp chin against her neck, humming softly, "Baby, be honest, otherwise your beautiful forehead may bloom." His voice was soft, but his words were filled with a sense of sinisterness, which made people feel cold all over the body. Lily shuddered. The man laughed softly, and his lips moved on her neck. Lily's neck quickly moved. A string of tiny chills appeared, and she resisted the urge to escape, clutching the duvet with both hands, but the next moment the man suddenly opened his mouth and bit her hard. This bite must have been bloody, because Lily herself could feel the excruciating pain in her neck. After the man finished biting her, he stretched out his tongue to lick her wound carefully, and smiled softly to comfort her. Good. After he finished all this, he stood up straight, revealing his exquisite and perfect face under his slightly curly hair. His eyes were so deep and black that they were almost ink blue, and there seemed to be a bit of a smile in his eyes. He was upright and his face was almost enchanting. Although he was smiling, he felt evil for no reason. The name Mu Xiao came to Lily's mind, and she stared with wide eyes, almost vigilantly, as Mu Xiao threw the towel to the ground in front of her, and entered the dressing room at the back. When he came out, his curly hair had already. He obediently combed her hair neatly with hair oil. She was wearing a white shirt underneath and a black suit on the outside. Her straight and strong legs were wrapped in suit trousers. There was a hint of evil in her meticulousness. The eyes seemed to be smiling when looking at people, the skin was so white that it was almost transparent, and the thick brows pressed the eyes extremely low, making the deep eyes look a bit sharp when they were not smiling. We'll talk about the divorce when I get back. If I don't want to mention it in the future, you'd better not mention it again. He straightened his tie and glanced sideways at Lily. The corners of his mouth were raised very high and his eyes were as wide as a smile. Moonlight, otherwise, I will twist your head off. His voice was extremely low, and the smile on his face made him threaten unceremoniously, but there was murderous intent in his eyes. It was obvious that what he just said was not just a joke. That's all. After arriving at this place, Lily has not received the plot, so she naturally does not know who Mu Xiao is, nor does she know what grudges and identities she has with him now. At this time, when her strength is not as good as others and she has no memory, naturally, she didn't dare to make any move. After hearing Mu Xiao's threatening words, Lily had no choice but to nod obediently. Seeing Lily's well-behaved look, Mu Xiao became somewhat interested. He glanced at Lily, and a look of confusion flashed in his eyes. He originally looked ready to go out, but this time he turned around again. He became more and more confused. As he got closer, the uncomfortable cold feeling on his body became more obvious. Even the light scent of perfume sprayed on his body couldn't suppress that feeling. Lily subconsciously wanted to hide back, but she didn't have time to speak. She was pushed heavily onto the bed all of a sudden. She had just entered this body. She was dizzy, and had a headache. She almost moaned because of the push. But before she could open her mouth, her soul had already left the original owner's body. The pale girl was now suppressed on the bed by the neatly dressed Mu Xiao. When she entered this body again, Mu Xiao had already left. The room had obviously been cleaned up, and the smell of sex was no longer in the air. Lily's whole body ached, and there were several bloody teeth marks on her chest. Musiao, who looks like a gentleman and loves to laugh, has a beast-like heart. Her legs have almost lost all feeling, and purple finger marks can be seen everywhere. Feeling very uncomfortable all over, she carefully got out of bed while sucking in the air conditioning and found the direction of the bathroom. She took a hot bath. In the bathtub, she finally began to accept the plot this time. During this time, the water in the bathtub had already become cold, but Lily didn't dare to think about it, for fear of interrupting the plot she had finally transferred. She was tricked by the plot twice in a row, which made her have a psychological shadow about the mission without plot. She was naturally very cautious at this moment. It was not until more than 2 hours later that she had absorbed all the plot and memories. Then Lily breathed a sigh of relief, with a complicated look in her eyes. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 215. This time Lily became a woman named Qin Beihee. The Qin family was originally a well-known wealthy businessman's family in the capital. Because they had given birth to 2 sons in a row before, Ms. Qin finally became pregnant and gave birth to Qin Beihee. When such a daughter came, the whole family was naturally doted on, pampering the only daughter until she seemed ignorant of the world, and frighteningly naive and dreamy. Since childhood, Qin Beihee has only liked things that can cultivate sentiments in the arts but have no ability to make a living. She has a gentle and well-behaved personality. She originally thought that she would rely on her status in the Qin family for the rest of her life, even if it is to turn such a simple person into a blank slate. It is not difficult for an ordinary daughter to raise a good daughter for a lifetime. The Qin family and his wife even want to give her some of the Qin family's shares so that she will have no worries about food and clothing for the rest of her life. As long as she can find a gentle husband for her, he can know her from now on. Well, even if the other party has no status, the Qin family and his wife don't care. Qin Beihee has also wanted to find a literary and romantic person since she was a child. She can understand him, and he can also understand her lover, and they will be together for the rest of their lives. But contrary to expectations, she was inadvertently spotted by the CEO of the Mu family, and finally brought up marriage to the Qin family, forcing her to marry into the Mu family. Not to mention Qin Beihee's timid and introverted character like a little rabbit, she is extremely beautiful and has an outstanding figure. The most important thing is that she has a pure and transparent heart, even if it is a man who doesn't like her type of woman. It was difficult to have a bad feeling towards her when he saw her for the first time. Marrying a stranger was enough to scare Qin Beihee. She was extremely timid, and Mu Xiao was not a very gentle person. She was newlywed. She only resisted a little bit that night, and Mu Xiao didn't know what he gave her to eat. Tortured her all night. This man who was so domineering and powerful that no one could refute him left an everlasting shadow in Qin Beihee's heart. She was really afraid of him. Afraid that he would try every means to torture her in bed, afraid that he would never give her something weird to drink. The Qin family and his wife had protected her very well in the past. She had never experienced or seen such a scene. She began to feel towards Mu Xiao. She became scared and wanted to run away from him. Even though Mu Xiao warned her 3 times and 4 times to restrain herself, it was still a frightened girl. She couldn't listen to Mu Xiao's words at all, especially when she accidentally discovered that Mu Xiao was playing with women at home. One moment, the woman was smiling in his arms, and the next moment he was unhappy and killed the woman who was waiting for him, making Qin Beihee more and more afraid of Mu Xiao. Her married life has always been very unhappy, and she lived in gloom. It was not until the appearance of the sunshine in her life, Du Jianyu, that Qin Beihee felt alive again. This Du Jianyu is a young man whom Qin Beihee met when she was doing volunteer work. He has a bright smile and a tall and handsome figure. But unlike Mu Xiao, who was tall and had a sense of danger, Du Jianyu was tall enough to make Qin Beihe feel safe instead of afraid. After careful contact, the two discovered that the other party had something they were interested in and liked. They both liked painting and poetry, and although Du Jianyu's life was unfortunate, he was born in an ordinary poor family and could not afford to go to school. He entered the art university in the imperial capital, but he did not give up on himself. Instead, he actively started selling his works to raise tuition for college. In addition to making money, he also often does volunteer work and contributes to society. A person like him is so cheerful that it makes people's hearts beat, like a ray of bright sunshine shining into Qin Beihe's dark psychology. Du Jianyu has Qin Beihe's favorite type as a girl before she was married. He is kind and motivated. But it was a pity that the two met after she was already married. Qin Beihe cried bitterly because of this. She couldn't help falling in love with Du Jianyu. She was originally afraid of Mu Xiao, but now that she has someone she truly loves, she hopes more and more to be with her beloved instead of with him. Being together with the devil, she knelt in front of Mu Xiao, hoping that he would let her go and divorce her, but in the end she just humiliated herself. After failing to gain freedom, Qin Beihe felt fearful and resentful. She couldn't bear Du Jianyu's praises and began to have close contact with him. She used her own money to support him in painting and education until after more than 2 months of dating, Du Jianyu entered university. During the entrance examination, he hoped to draw a picture with his lover's body. He said sadly that even though Qin Beihe had married another person, the one in his heart while the fire of love would never go out, Qin Beihe was moved by his deep feelings. She took off her clothes and had her body painted by Du Jianyu. The two of them could not control themselves because of this. The young man and woman rolled together. When being intimate with Mu Xiao, both his physical condition and his preferences in bed made Qin Beihe, a simple woman, a little scared and overwhelmed. In addition, she had no good impression of Mu Xiao in her heart, so every time the intimate affairs between husband and wife are the deepest shadow in her heart. She is originally petite and doesn't like the other party to be too strong or too heavy, but Mu Xiao makes her feel painful every time. The original resistance of her body and the instinct in her soul every time the two of them love each other, it is a double torture for Qin Beihe. But now Du Jianyu gave her a different feeling. His movements were gentle, and although he was tall, the fit between his body and hers did not hurt her as much as Mu Xiao's. In addition, Du Jianyu's gentle coaxing, completely made Qin Beihe fall in love with him desperately. The two of them secretly interacted with each other, and every time they met, it was an uncontrollable affair. Until 2 months later, Du Jianyu's painting of her breasts was displayed in the school by the art university, and the Qin family became famous in the imperial capital. They couldn't afford to lose this person. Even if the Qin family loved their daughter, they got angry this time. They called her back and scolded her, and the whole family wanted to come to Mu Xiao to apologize. The Mu family is extremely powerful, and it is even said that the Mu family has connections with foreign underworld. More importantly, in fact, the Qin family's company is not as powerful as before. There was a problem before, so Mu Xiao proposed to marry Qin. Lily Bai helped the Qin family, and the Qin family couple was forced to agree. At this moment, Qin Beihe's nude painting happened. Although Qin's father was angry with his daughter for doing such an unruly thing, he was still worried about her future life. He only hoped that she would apologize to Mu Xiao. Please ask him to forgive me and let him press it down. But unexpectedly, Qin Lily refused when Father Qin asked her to apologize. She almost mustered up the greatest courage in her life and asked Mu Xiao for a divorce. Brother Jianyu and I really love each other. You can help us. I don't want anything. I will give my money to you, leave it to you, I just want to be with Brother Jianyu. Mu Xiao looked at her at that time as if he had stabbed her to death with a knife, but in the end he still agreed with a look of disgust. When Qin Beihe was happy to stay together with her sweetheart, she didn't see the look in her parents' eyes. With a bit of disappointment and shock. But even if Qin Beihe saw it, I'm afraid she wouldn't take it to heart because she was afraid. She had been used to being submissive her whole life. When her parents forced her to marry Mu Xiao, she was actually reluctant, but her parents made the decision. After getting married, the unsatisfactory marriage life made her complain about her parents. At this time, she knew in her heart that her parents were unhappy, but she still couldn't help but feel proud, thinking that this was why her parents forced her to marry. Human consequences. Half a month later, she signed her name and left the house. When she was carrying her luggage to find Du Jianyu, she happily told him that she was free. Unexpectedly, Du Jianyu looked shocked, staring at her with a bit of dissatisfaction in his eyes. Qin Beihe was dazzled by what she thought was true love at that time. She happily moved into the pigeon cage-like home rented by Du Jianyu in the imperial capital, and began to wash his hands and make soup for him. A pampered young lady, Qin Beihe had suffered enough for her lover, and the food, accommodation were all different from before. Qin Beihe was not used to it, but she believed that this was something that love must experience, so she endured it. In the beginning, Du Jianyu still tolerated her, but gradually, within a month, when he saw that Qin Beihe really couldn't get the money, his expression changed. Qin Beihe was a little scared when Elang seemed to have changed into a different person for a moment, but she had not given up on her first love yet. She endured her grievances every day, and Du Jianyu asked her every time he came back from school. When she went back to Mu's house, she thought at first that Du Jianyu couldn't bear to endure the hardships with him, and smiled gently and contentedly, saying that she didn't care. But later she realized that Du Jianyu disliked her for having nothing, and disliked her like a vine, it can only wrap around someone else's body, looking forward to him coming home every day and cooking a bunch of food for him every day. This kind of relationship seemed very beautiful at the beginning, and such a supple woman was liked by others, but as time went by, it made Du Jianyu a little annoyed. He had other purposes for getting close to Qin Beihe, and what he liked was not the same. If she wasn't a boring woman like Qin Beihe, if it weren't for the fact that she was the daughter of the Qin family and might be able to get money in the future, he would have broken up with Qin Beihe long ago. After the divorce, living with her lover was not as good as Qin Beihe imagined. What was even more serious was that the Qin family was acquired by the Mu Group overnight. The Qin family couple, who were originally prosperous in the capital, went bankrupt in an instant. After being imprisoned, Qin's mother couldn't bear such changes and suffered a heart attack, while Qin's father was imprisoned at an early age. When Qin Beihe thought that her parents really didn't care about her and that she had no money to use after she came out, her parents never looked for her. When she still complained about her parents in her heart, she didn't know about the changes that had happened to the Qin family until a few days later. Du Jianyu drove her out impatiently. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 216. When Qin Beihe still couldn't believe that Du Jianyu was so cruel to her, Du Jianyu threw the newspaper in her face that said the Qin family was bankrupt, Qin's mother was dead, and Qin's father was in jail. At that moment, even the innocent Qin Beihe couldn't help but panic. She had been pampered since she was a child, and the only one she could rely on was the Qin family, but because of love, she acted willfully. After she divorced Mu Xiao, even though her parents did not agree with her doing so, she actually did not regret it. Instead, she believed that love it should be selfish, but she didn't expect that the Qin family would be destroyed because of selfish love. In a panic, she realized that the art she liked before could not help her at all now. She had lived in her own ivory tower since she was a child, and could not find anyone who could help her. After thinking about it, only her ex-husband could go. Ask what's going on. It's just that she is no longer Mrs. Mu now. She can't even see Mu Xiao, but is driven out with great disrespect. The overnight incident almost drove Qin Beihe crazy. When she couldn't bear it anymore and became homeless, Mu Xiao asked someone to take her back. Under the Mu family's mansion that scared her, Du Jianyu unexpectedly kneeled there too. The sunny smile on his face was completely gone at this time, and instead he became a little wretched and frightened. He looked nothing like the boy she knew in the past. When she was a little uneasy, Mu Xiao asked Du Jianyu to say a truth that shocked her. After marrying Mu Xiao, although Qin Beihe was unwilling, many people were jealous of her. She had been in love with Mu Xiao for a long time, but her appearance matched his, but she had no family power and her aura was as confident as a queen. The female assistant who had been with Mu Xiao for 7 or 8 years fell in love with him. Made a plan to marry him. She very carefully found a prince charming who fit her imagination based on Qin Beihe's hobbies, sent the prince to her, got rid of her love rival without leaving a trace, and accepted all the dowry left by her love rival. Now this prince, the proud and smart girl, drove away her love rival and made a fool like Qin Beihe voluntarily give up her dowry. She then used Mu Xiao's power to clean up the Qin family. Now that she has enough status to marry Mu Xiao, she will replace Qin Beihe as his wife. When she knew the truth, Qin Beihe couldn't believe it. She didn't expect that the Qin family was killed by her. She couldn't accept this fact. You're really not very smart, but I'm tired of playing around. Your body still brought me a lot of happiness. I'll leave it to you to deal with this man. Don't let me down, Mu Xiao. Before finally leading people to leave, he blew a kiss to Qin Lily, leaving Du Jianyu, who had plotted against her and harmed her, in her hands. Qin Beihe thought about her not so smart words. For the first time in her life, she had the urge to kill, but she didn't dare. She looked at Du Jianyu, who was begging, and felt very contempt for him, but Qin Beihe despised herself even more. Even at this point, she felt she still couldn't forget her feelings for a while, that feeling of first love, even if she knew that Du Jianyu was lying to her. Now the Qin family was destroyed because of her. That man took away everything she had, but she didn't have the ability to compete with the woman who wanted to marry Mu Xiao. She couldn't avenge the Qin family, and she didn't have the face to see the Qin family again. She finally had no courage to take on everything and committed suicide. What she hated most before her death was Du Jianyu, a shameless and disgusting man. She also hated Fang Qiaxin, who plotted against her. If Fang Qiaxin liked Mu Xiao, she could have thought of other ways to seduce Mu Xiao, but Fang Qiaxin didn't and chose to hurt Qin Beihe. To accomplish all of this, although Qin Beihe was stupid, she still hated her in her heart. She not only hated others, but also hated herself a little. She didn't have the guts to take revenge, so she could only ask others to help her fulfill all her wishes. Lily couldn't help but sigh in her heart after receiving the memories in the bathtub. It was a coincidence that she arrived at the right time, just after Mu Xiao and Qin Lily had gotten married, and Qin Lily and Du Jianyu had met each other. The two of them had just developed a good feeling, and they had agreed to go to a nursing home to do volunteer work this weekend. Calculating the time, it happened to be tomorrow. The water in the bathtub was already cold, and the weather in the capital was still very cold at the moment. Although the air conditioner was turned on in the room, Lily could only endure it while receiving the memory. Now she shivered and quickly got up. After his lips turned purple from the cold, he finally found his bathrobe in his dressing room on the other side of the room. Mu Xiao has a very serious and weird disorder. There are some things that he doesn't like others to touch. Not only can others not touch them, but they are not even qualified to enter his designated area. Therefore, the two of them have different dressing rooms. In the past, Qin Lily was very happy about this. There were not many places where she could avoid Mu Xiao in Mu Xiao's house. Even if the two of them in the dressing room were different, the original owner felt a little happy inexplicably. After blow-drying her hair, A very pure face with a little baby fat was revealed in the mirror. A pair of big watery eyes should have been clear to the bottom, but at this time they were so dark and shiny that it was hard to see. The thoughts of the owner of the eyes. Although Lily didn't ask what the fox demon's charm was for, she saw Chin Bei's face in the mirror. When she smiled with her lips raised slightly, her innocent look was a little bit more innocent, as if she couldn't. The charming demeanor of perception is indeed a useful thing. As soon as she put down the hairdryer, the sound of a car entering the parking garage was heard from downstairs. Maybe it was because the villa here was very quiet, so Lily heard it clearly. The room partition effect was very good, and the sound of the servant opening the door downstairs Lily couldn't hear it. Thinking of Musiao, Lily instinctively felt a little nervous. This man was very dangerous. He was not particularly strong, but he gave people an oppressive and dangerous feeling. When she thought of what happened before, she still felt a little hesitant. The door was suddenly opened, and Musiao, who was supported by a servant and Fang Qiaxin, came into the room smelling of alcohol. It can be said that enemies met, and they were extremely jealous. Lily had just finished absorbing the memory, and now she saw Fang Qiaxin with her own eyes, and her charming big eyes narrowed. Fang Qiaxin was originally from an ordinary family, but her appearance was extremely beautiful. Different from the original owner's fresh temperament, which seemed to be ignorant of the fireworks of the world, she was confident and beautiful. If compared with flowers, the original owner was an orchid in the empty valley. Aloof from the world and independent, that square and clever heart is like a blooming peony. It is not as luxurious and unattainable as a peony, but it also carries the aura of a cold strong woman, making people involuntarily feel inferior in front of her at first sight. Down. She did very well in school and was only 4 years older than her original owner. However, at the age of 17, she was recommended by her school to be sent to the UK as an exchange student. After graduation, she refused the UK's offer to stay and join the MU group. She was selected through many levels along the way. Later, he became Mu Xiao's personal assistant, not only helping him handle some official matters, but also helping him handle many personal matters. At this time, Fang Qiaxin was wearing a black short skirt, with her perfect buttocks wrapped in her skirt. Her upper body was in a plaid shirt, with the hem tucked into the skirt. Her plump breasts seemed to pop out of the buttons, even though she was wearing dark colors. But it also gives people an unobtrusive sexy feeling. Mu Xiao's slightly curly hair, which was originally combed back to expose his broad forehead, is now a little messy, with a few strands falling off the right corner of his forehead. Different from the previous neatly dressed up, it shows a decadent beauty. He entered the room without even looking at Lily, and directly rushed to the servants and ordered, "Go out and bring in the wine." This person had a very chaotic personality. Lily thought of the things he had done in the memory of the original owner. At this moment, the hairs on her back stood up. Although there was still a mission target in front of her, she also remembered that Qin Bei had 2 wishes in total. Strip. First, it was to make Du Jianyu pay the price as retribution for harming him. Secondly, he wanted to rob Mu Xiao. He must not give up Mrs. Mu's position to Fang Qiaxin, a bitch, and make her life worse than death. The original owner was afraid of Mu Xiao, but it was probably not Qin Bei who was doing the task, so she made such a tricky and weird request. Lily didn't think it was intolerable at first, but then she saw that Mu Xiao had brought a woman back. She really felt that she couldn't bear it any longer. She was very afraid that Mu Xiao would do something to embarrass her. "Boss, you should freshen up." Fang Qiaxin didn't even look at Lily. In her heart, she achieved everything she has now through her own ability and hard work. She looked down on Lily, who could do nothing but do nothing. The person who gets everything is born with a golden key in his mouth. If she had not had good parents and a good background that gave her everything, Lily would not be qualified to stand in the same place with her now. Although Fang Qiaxin was not as good as others. But she was very proud, and she also knew where her confidence came from. She looked down on Lily from the bottom of her heart, so even though she knew that she was Mu Xiao's wife, Fang Qiaxin did not hide the look on her face at all. Emotion gave Mu Xiao a gentle look, and stretched out his hand to stand on tiptoes to smooth out Mu Xiao's hair that was hanging in the corners of his eyes. "I'm sorry, Ms. Fang." Mu Xiao sneered twice and slapped Fang Qiaxin's palm away mercilessly. There was no drunkenness in his eyes at this moment. He just stretched out his hand to pull off the tie from his neck and threw it to the ground. He threw it away without even looking at Lily, and after pulling open the collar of his shirt a little, he sat on the small sofa in the room and called out lazily, "Come here." He didn't mention anyone by name. Fang Qiaxin didn't care at all that her hand was red from being beaten by him. She raised her chin proudly and walked towards Mu Xiao. She knelt down and reached out to untie Mu Xiao's belt. After pulling down his trouser chain, his fingers quickly teased him until the flames rose, and he took it into his mouth. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 217. Lily stared at the scene in front of her with her eyes wide open, and her face felt a little hot. Even if she knew that the two people might have some relationship behind their backs, after all, Fang Qiaxin's movements were so skillful that it didn't look like it was the first time she had done this. But doing this in front of her still greatly stimulated her. She originally thought she could handle it, but now it seems that she overestimated herself. She can't. No one could look at such a scene and remain calm. Lily convinced herself in her heart. Just when she was about to sneak away quickly, a butler came in at the door with a wine glass. She looked at all this without squinting, as if she didn't even notice. Seeing Fang Qiaxin's behavior, Mu Xiao's eyes were filled with lust. He instructed the butler to take out a pack of medicine, opened it and poured it all into the wine. He reached out to take it, and Fang Qiaxin, who was holding him in his mouth, raised his head. Stretched out his hand to hold him, with a blush on his cheeks, and his voice was a little hoarse. "Boss, you can't eat any more." There was a look of concern in her eyes, but before she could finish her words, Mu Xiao, who just looked like he was lazily enjoying himself, sneered twice, picked up the wine glass, took a sip, and then Zi smashed the wine glass towards Fang Qiao's heart. With a soft sound of kuang, he exerted great force, and the wine glass was smashed onto Fang Qiaxin's head. The aroma of vintage liquor spread in the room, and some of the transparent glass fragments were still in Fang Qiaxin's hair. She still looked charming, but now she seemed to be stunned. She hadn't even looked at Lily after entering the room, but at this moment she subconsciously looked at Lily. It was obvious that she was treated like this by her sweetheart in front of her love rival. She couldn't bear it anymore. "Get lost." Mu Xiao immediately turned his back on him. Just now he had a sexy and lazy smile. It darkened instantly. His expression looked a little ferocious. He took the handkerchief from the butler and wiped his hands. As he stretched his legs, he raised his foot and kicked Fang Qiaxin in the chest. His handsome face showed a bit of anger. His hair was a little messy and fell down on his face, blocking his eyes. He could only see the pale face under the high bridge of his nose. His lips were almost bloodless. Disappointment. Fang Qiaxin's face turned pale, and she was knocked backwards by Mu Xiao's kick. Some shards of glass cut into her waist where she was only wearing a thin silk shirt. It probably scratched the skin. The sting was painful, but it was nothing compared to the pain in her heart at the moment. Her face was already looking a little ugly. But she resisted and refused to speak. Even though she was so embarrassed at the moment, she still stood up proudly, screwed on her high heels, and walked towards the door barefoot. His back was straight, and he looked arrogant but showed a bit of pitiful vulnerability and injury. Mu Xiao, however, narrowed his eyes and waved impatiently at Uncle Lu, the housekeeper. The butler quietly walked backwards, took the tray out, and closed the door behind him. Lily stiffened when she saw this scene. The room was so quiet for a while that she could only hear Mu Xiao's thin breathing after he had just beaten someone. He didn't know what the wine he just drank was, but now his lips were actually bright red. It looks like blood, and looks a little weird and gorgeous. Come here, he called out lazily again. Now Lily was sure that he was calling him and not Fang Qiaxin. She had just seen the scene where Fang Qiaxin was beaten. She didn't know how many broken glass shards were stuck above her head. Even if Lily had to complete the task this time, she couldn't help but feel her scalp numb at this moment. She looked at his disheveled appearance and raised her head, but she couldn't move her steps. Fortunately, Li Yangzi helped her so that she didn't have to struggle anymore. She saw Qin Beihe's body obediently walk towards Mu Xiao and was pinned between his legs by him. Maybe this body didn't struggle like before. So Mu Xiao didn't treat her the way he treated Fang Qiaxin just now. Instead, he narrowed his eyes and stroked her hair. Lily woke up leaning on Mu Xiao's arms. His chest was a little cold. Compared with normal people, his body temperature was lower. Sleeping with him in the cold winter was not a comfortable thing. As you can imagine, last night was a night of partying. Mu Xiao didn't know what he ate, and his energy was frightening. Because the clothes were thrown everywhere, and the limbs were still tightly tangled together. When Lily pulled her legs back from his waist, she couldn't help but grin and took a breath of cold air. Just as she was about to sit up, the arms originally around her waist tightened, and Mu Xiao lazily the voice rang. "Where do you want to go?" His voice was still hoarse after a hangover, and it sounded low and sexy. At this moment, his fingers restlessly scratched between Lily's belly, and then he buried his head on Lily's neck from behind. Suddenly, he bit it gently. "Don't go see that painter." Mu Xiao was not asking Lily for advice, but actually giving her an order. In the past, he didn't care about this woman, who was just a plaything. Suddenly, it seemed like she had changed from yesterday. Things began to change in the evening, and it seemed that he was a little obsessed. At least he was very comfortable cooperating in bed. This was the time when his interest was high, and he was not willing to let Fang Qiao fall in love with her for the time being. "I'm about to get up. I feel dizzy." After lying down for a long time, Lily turned around and glanced at Mu Xiao. She grabbed the quilt with one hand and covered her chest. The smooth black silk was draped over her shoulders, covered with bruises. This kind of sadistic beauty, but there is a kind of natural charm in her expression, which seems to be a little different from her usual. Mu Xiao was stunned for a moment, and the quilt on her body was pulled off by her and wrapped tightly around her body. He was lying on the bed with his naked body stretched out. When he saw Lily opening the door to the dressing room and going in, his eyes narrowed. After a long while, he actually grinned silently. Interesting. After receiving the memory, Lily discovered that the two of them actually had different dressing rooms and bathrooms. Yesterday, when she first arrived and did not receive the memory, she went to the wrong place. Fortunately, Mu Xiao was not at home at that time. Otherwise, according to this person's weird temperament, I'm afraid it was really easy for me to suffer a loss yesterday. The Mu family is a company run by gangsters. Although it is doing serious business in name, in fact it is still running illegal forces behind the scenes. Mu Xiao has only been in power for 2 years, but more than half a year ago, his parents and brothers were the mysterious death made everyone in the city not only awe but also a little afraid of Mu Xiao. He was 25 years old, more than 4 years older than the young lady from the Qin family. Lily cleared the information in her mind. For a while, I felt like I didn't know where to start. This isn't her first time doing a mission either. I have encountered many mission objects. But this is the first time I have encountered a person like Mu Xiao who is moody and seems to do things too freely. He can be said to be a bad person who is cruel to others as well as himself. Lily couldn't see through his heart, but she knew that this person was very dangerous. In the current situation, she could only take one step at a time, and at least Mu Xiao would not kill her now. Lily sighed. A face as beautiful as a peach and plum appeared in the mirror. She looked at herself in the mirror. Even though she showed an innocent expression at this moment, she couldn't help but reveal a bit of tenderness from the corners of her eyes and eyebrows. She took some shui, patted his face, and the charming big eyes in the mirror soon showed a bit of determination. At this time, Qin Bei was still studying, but because she got married this month, the Qin family asked for a month's leave from school on her behalf. The original master studied painting and cello, and Lily did not have these talents. She didn't come to this place just for romance, so naturally she didn't plan to go to school again. For the current plan, since the original owner has 2 wishes, Du Jianyu is not a threat to her. It is easy to deal with Du Jianyu with the current identity of the original owner. Although the original owner's wish is to make him suffer, Lily, there are many things that can make him feel unspeakable pain. The most important thing is that the target is still Fang Qiaxin. Fang Qiaxin is confident and smart, resourceful and scheming. The most important thing is that she also has the beauty to match her intelligence. For such a person, her journey has not been easy, so she is extremely strong inside. She is truly proud from the bottom of her heart, and is not arrogant due to extreme low self-esteem. Of course, Fang Qiaxin also has the capital to be proud. She is an outstanding pearl in the Mu group. She has been by Mu Xiao's side for the past few years. He was very busy and became one of his indispensable assistants. If it weren't for Fang Qiaxin's infatuation with Mu Xiao, Lily would almost think that she had no weaknesses. But this weakness is not easy to attack. Mu Xiao does not seem to be an easy person to deal with. Qin Bei's wish is to make Fang Qiao heartbroken and miserable. In addition to occupying the position of Mu Xiaoming's righteous wife, she also wants to make Fang Qiaxin as powerful as Fang Qiao. If a woman feels heartbroken, she may have no choice but to go to Gongmuk Xiao. What are you thinking about? A soft voice sounded, and then 2 arms came out from behind Lily and wrapped around her waist. A somewhat cold body pressed close to her, giving Lily a feeling as if she was tied up by a poisonous snake. She lowered her head, and Mu Xiao immediately hugged her tighter. He lowered his head in the mirror, and his messy but decadent curly hair covered his face, revealing his slender chin. He turned Lily around with just a little force. Perhaps because he thought the height difference between the two was too big, he picked up Lily and placed her on the dressing table. He lifted her chin up and pressed her lips tightly against each other. Go up. Lily wanted to hide, but she couldn't avoid Mu Xiao's brute strength. On the contrary, because of her attempts to avoid, Mu Xiao became a little angry. After a while, Lily felt the taste of blood in her mouth. My lips slowly started to tingle. There was no feeling of tenderness and sweetness, only a sense of robbery and oppression. Lily's waist was tightly tightened by him, and her legs were forced to spread apart and wrapped around his waist. Just when she was worried and wanted to call Li Yangzi, Mu Xiao released his lips on his own. When he came, there were blood beads on his lips. He held her up with one hand and made a tisk, tisk sound in his mouth. He looked at Lily's red and swollen lips and said, "Look at my poor little one. What's wrong? Who is bullying you?" To be continued. P.S. Second update. I was a little sad to find that the automatic release was set to be an hour late at noon. Dear friends, please forgive me. In addition, it is best for the male characters in each story to be of different types, otherwise I think everyone will be tired of aesthetics. There are bad guys and good guys, loyal dogs and infatuated dogs. In short, I want to see what my limit is. Where? So if you like him, you can treat him as the male protagonist in this story, I mean Mu Xiao. If you don't like him, you can treat him as the villain. Finally, I beg you little fans, oh little fans, I am willing to do it for you, I am willing to do it for you, I am willing to do it for you, to wipe out your moral integrity. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 218. Lily's originally depressed mood was completely washed away by Mu Xiao's words, and she suddenly felt a little sad. She didn't realize that the person on the mission this time had a tendency to be crazy. Why did he seem to be more crazy than she thought at the moment? Is it even more scary? She struggled twice, and her lips felt numb and painful when she moved. Mu Xiao, who had been smiling just now, suddenly turned gloomy, hugged her tighter, and clasped his hands firmly on her waist, his eyes a little sinister. Go out with me today. Although she knew that provoking him at this time was not a wise move, Lily didn't know if it was influenced by the original owner. She instinctively felt scared at this time, her body trembled twice, and she blurted out, "Yes, but I have to go to a nursing home today." The force on Mu Xiao's arm was so strong that she almost broke her waist. He snorted coldly, without saying anything, and directly picked up Lily. After leaving the room, he used his free hand to take it from the coffee table in the room. A box. After crushing the transparent plastic box with his hand, he took out a few pink blue pills, pinched them in his palms, and threw Lily on the bed. Before Lily could recover, the pressure came up, so much that Lily almost couldn't breathe out. "What are you going to do?" The original owner had taken some kind of medicine before. After taking it, he felt dizzy for a whole day and didn't know anything. Although the color of the pills was a little different, he knew it wasn't good after thinking about it. Lily's expression, everything had changed, and just as she was about to struggle, Mu Xiao pinched her nose tightly with one hand. When she couldn't help but open her mouth to breathe, Mu Xiao stuffed several pills into her mouth. He looked again and saw that there was a bottle of red wine that had been opened last night on the bedside table. He smiled solemnly. He took the wine bottle and poured it into Lily's mouth. Lily couldn't struggle at all. Just as she was about to move, Mu Xiao reached out and grabbed her hair, forcing her to raise her head. The remaining red wine was poured into her mouth by Mu Xiao, and some of the wine she had no time to swallow flowed down her face and chin. Sliding on the bed, Lily was choked so much that her tears and nose ran out, but she couldn't speak at all. "This pill is made with red wine. It's even more powerful. Poor little guy, you can't go anywhere today." In her daze, Lily only heard Mu Xiao chuckle, and he seemed to have taken something himself. After eating, the two became entangled again. It was already a day later when she woke up again. The medicine was very potent. When Lily woke up, her body felt like it had been run over by a wheel. There was not a single figure in Nyoda's room. The previous mess had been taken care of, and the bed sheets had been cleared away. It seems that they have been replaced by others. She sat up angrily and couldn't help but scolded Mu Xiao in her heart. This time the task was far more difficult than she imagined. Lily's heart sank when she thought of the previous scene of being drunk. The most important thing at the moment is that she cannot get rid of Mu Xiao. Whether it is from a mission perspective or from a strength perspective, she is no match for Mu Xiao. But if she wants to complete the mission well and prevent the situation like yesterday from happening again, she still needs to have to practice martial arts. Just after making the decision, Lily closed her eyes, trying to find the feeling of qi in her body, but she couldn't. This body seemed to have been blocked from practicing martial arts. It was not that it had poor qualifications, but that it simply did not have the conditions to practice martial arts that day. Just when Lily was feeling upset, her cell phone rang suddenly. She looked around and then remembered that this should be her mobile phone. It might be the effect of her hangover. When she heard the sound, her head felt like needles pricking her head. Now she got out of bed and tried to get her mobile phone, but she almost missed it. Fell to the ground. The after effects of the hangover started at this moment. In addition, after Lily came to this world, she didn't go out to see the sun for several days. She spent most of the time fooling around with Mu Xiao. The original owner was not physically strong to begin with. People who were injured all over their bodies naturally felt even more uncomfortable. Now that there was nothing in their stomachs, a sense of nausea surged up, making Lily's face look even more ugly. Hello, she didn't look at the name displayed on the screen of her mobile phone. She squinted her eyes and connected the phone before speaking unsteadily. She felt her throat hurt so much when she spoke. Her voice was hoarse, and it seemed as if the person on the other end of the phone didn't recognize her voice. She paused, and after a long while, she asked cautiously, "Yes, is it Zia he?" Although the male voice was a bit uneasy and disbelieving, Lily immediately recognized that it was Du Jianyu's voice. She opened her eyes and rubbed her eyebrows with one hand. She originally wanted to. She was thinking about the next way to go, but now her mind was like a mess, and the more she thought about it, the more severe her headache became. When she was already a little impatient with the waiting, she responded, "I am Zia he, this is Jianyu. What's wrong with you? Your voice sounds very weak. Have you not eaten?" Du Jianyu seemed to be very anxious when he heard her admission. His voice became a little hurried and he couldn't hear it at all. It turned out that he was actually dissatisfied at the moment. Qin Bei had always been very kind to him. She always spoke softly when answering his phone calls. She had never been so vicious before. At this time, resentment welled up in his heart, but there was still a sense of sunshine and vitality in his voice, even if it was she was pretending to be anxious now, but it sounded very pleasant. Lily sneered twice, and Du Jianyu said hurriedly, "I came to you and bought you some food. Why can't you take care of yourself? Don't you want me to worry?" He acted like a lover who was worried about his lover's health. Lily felt a sense of sadness in her heart. Feeling sour, my eyes were sore, and I almost couldn't help but shed tears. Compared with Mu Xiao's cruelty and coldness, Du Jianyu was like a ray of sunshine shining into the heart of the original owner. If Qin Bei treated herself as a prisoner, then in her heart Mu Xiao would be like a prison that had locked her up. And Du Jianyu was the sunshine that gave her hope and endless warmth. The two had just met each other not long ago and were in the stage of love. For some embarrassing purpose, Qin Bei didn't want Du Jianyu to know. She didn't tell him that she was married, and she didn't tell him that she was the eldest daughter of the Qin family. She thought that she and Du Jianyu were on equal terms, but she didn't know that Du Jianyu knew all the truth, but now he was just playing her around. Lily wiped away her tears, which should be the original owner's discomfort. She cleared her throat. Didn't Du Jianyu want to play tricks on her? Do you want to pretend not to know that she is married to show his love for him, and want to seduce Qin Bei? In the past, Qin Bei was afraid of all this, but she was not afraid at all. And Mu Xiao should know about this in the plot. It can be seen from the day Mu Xiao said that he fell in love with a poor painter. Lily was disgusted with Du Jianyu, her eyes showed a cold look, but she whispered, "Okay. Brother Jianyu, come here." As soon as she said these words, the other end of the phone suddenly stopped. Du Jianyu was employed by Fang Qiaxin, so he didn't know Qin Bei's true identity. He just did that on purpose. He said that he just wanted to move Lily's heart. He simply couldn't believe that Lily Qin's timid character, who was as frightened as if she had seen a ghost when mentioning Mu Xiao, really dared to take his sexual partner home. He originally didn't dare to go to Mu's house, but his acting skills were excellent, and it was easy for him to seduce an innocent girl. So he had the courage to talk nonsense. I thought Lily would panic and refuse. At this moment, she actually agreed. Du Jianyu was a little scared and panicked, but also a little speechless. He even wondered if Qin Beihe was crazy and dared to let him go to her home. Wasn't she afraid that Mu Xiao would kill her if he found out? He definitely couldn't make fun of his own life. Although he took Fang Qiaxin's money, there are thousands of ways to seduce women. Although money is good, you also have to have life to spend it. Therefore, he has never taken risks. If it weren't for this, the temptation given by Hui Fang Qiaxin was too great, and he didn't even dare to offend the Mu family at all. Ziahe, are you confused? You little confused, you haven't told Brother Jianyu where you live yet. Du Jianyu smiled softly, but there was some impatience on his face. He just said he was sure that Beihe was trying to joke with him. He didn't think that a timid person like Qin Beihe would really dare to do something like letting him go to the Mu family, so he suppressed the fear in his heart and spoke in an affectionate tone as if he was doting on her. She sighed helplessly. She wanted to say a few more words to tell her to take good care of her health and remember to eat more and wear more clothes. But when she asked her to come out to meet again, Lily quickly gave her a list of place names. Brother Jianyu, come here. This place is easy to find. There is only a family named Mu here. You will know when you come. Lily could hear the fear in Du Jianyu's mouth. Even if he tried to stay calm, he couldn't help it. The instinctive fear still leaked out of his mouth. Didn't Du Jianyu like to show that he liked it? She also gave him this opportunity. As soon as he finished speaking, Du Jianyu was silent for a while, and suddenly shouted, "Hey, hey, Ziahe, why don't you speak?" After he finished speaking, he seemed to be talking to himself. This damn signal, the signal is not as good as in the city when you live in the suburbs. Hey, Ziahe, Ziahe, I'll call you in the city right away. After saying that, his voice seemed to be getting farther and farther away, and he gradually hung up. Lily was silent for a while, put the phone away, and then couldn't help but want to laugh. The original owner actually liked such a thing. I don't know whether it was because the Qin family protected her too well, or because Fang Qiaxin knew this simple woman so well that she didn't have any scheming in her heart. Such a simple person turned Qin into Lily, and the Qin family had their families destroyed. To be continued. P.S. 4 updates today. Shocked. First of all, thank you, Abanzidu, dear Heshabai who rewards. Today I want to add one more to Heshabai. By the way, I'm adding an update today for the 30 extra votes from last month's pink votes. Although I am paying off my debt, I still have to give myself a pat on the back for updating 4 times in one day. Let me explain. By the way, although this novel has a certain description of the heroine's emotional drama, that is not important. Whether it is Xin Kong or Li Yangzi, they are all interspersed for the heroine's mission. The most important thing is the various plots. Quickly. Writing a story is a test of inspiration and story appeal. I always remember not to put the cart before the horse, so the most important thing is the stories in each section. Some of you have read the full-length novels of Kidian before, and may not be used to this method. It feels a bit fresh at first, but as time goes by, you may prefer full-length novels. I understand, so if you are tired of reading this way, then choose to read other novels. There are several ancient novels written by Kidian recently that are good. You can also try them for a change. I wish you all a happy reading. I love readers as always. I hope you will leave more messages to support me. I will feel very motivated. Yesterday, someone praised me, so I typed until 2 o'clock in the middle of the night. I finished typing today's manuscript and tomorrow's manuscript. So if you want to praise me, if you scold me, just scold me secretly in your heart, don't let me know. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 219. She didn't take Du Jianyu's words to heart about calling her again later. Lily smiled slightly when she thought of the nearly 20 missed calls on her phone. She cleaned herself up, found some clothes from the closet, put them on, and got ready to go downstairs for dinner. She had been hungry for a long time yesterday, and Musiao had fed her some weird pills and wine. Now she was walking, my legs felt like they were shaking, I felt top heavy when I walked, my eyes felt dizzy, and I almost fell down when I went downstairs. She didn't know that after she left the room, her phone rang again, and it was Du Jianyu who called back. After waiting for 10 minutes, Du Jianyu couldn't help it because Lily didn't call him. If he deliberately hangs up Qin Beihe's phone, she will definitely call Du Jianyu as soon as possible. Even if Du Jianyu pretends that the signal is not good and cannot be received, she will keep calling. The day before yesterday, at first, Lily seemed to be a completely different person. Yesterday, this damn woman dared not answer his call. Moreover, she said today that she lived in the suburbs. According to her personality, she should be very distressed and said that she would pay to rent a new house for herself. Then he refuses again. In this way, he can show his independence and unique personality, and she will definitely think more highly of him. Girls from rich families like to play that trick. Du Jianyu's trick has always worked. As long as others give him, he usually refused his offers forcefully, and others' impressions of him generally became very good. More importantly, his parents gave him an appearance that looked honest and sunny. Almost no one doubted him, but this after a while, Lily stopped taking the bait, and she didn't seem to understand the meaning of her words. At this time, Du Jianyu couldn't help but began to wonder if it was because he said it too vaguely. And Lily is just too stupid. So I didn't hear it? Du Jianyu was going to call Lily again. He carefully said what he said again. Of course, this time he would not say anything about going to buy groceries to see her. After finishing the draft in his mind, when he dialed Lily's cell phone again, she unexpectedly stopped answering the phone. Du Jianyu almost smashed his phone to the ground in hatred. Early this morning, he was aroused by Lily's behavior. He couldn't help but wonder if Lily had seen something, but this thought suddenly come to mind. And he was instinctively overthrown by Du Jianyu. After all, Qin Beihe was so spoiled by his parents that he really didn't believe that Qin Beihe could discover his true face with such consultation. When Lily went downstairs to eat, he saw her appear. Mu Xiao's butler, who never seemed to have any expression, was stunned for a moment. When he knew that Lily was going to eat, he saluted, looked at Lily again, and then gave the order. The servant went to the kitchen to bring the food. The young Mu Xiao inherited the entire pampered Mu family, and his food, clothing, housing, and transportation were all luxurious. 3 meals a day are taken care of by dedicated personnel, and even the chefs in the kitchen who make pastries and cook various dishes are top-notch. There are people who are good at every kind of cooking. Mu Xiao is not short of money and just wants the best enjoyment. Lily completely relaxed when she had the seemingly simple but delicious breakfast. "Madam, are you going out after breakfast?" The housekeeper respectfully brought a cup of coffee and glanced at Lily intently. Although Mu Xiao married Qin Lily, he did not restrict her freedom in life. In fact, although he married Qin Lily, he did not restrict her freedom in life. Mu Xiao had Qin Beihe, but he did not restrict her in how she wanted to play. Even if she had such an intimate relationship with Du Jianyu, Mu Xiao would not care. As long as there was no trouble, he would just turn a blind eye. Close one eye. From the plot, Qin Beihe and Du Jianyu really had a relationship, but he could tell it as if he didn't know about it. In the end, the reason why the two divorced was not only because Qin Beihe was stupid and was in addition to the evidence left behind, there was also the reason why she was stupid enough to be scheming by Fang Qiao. In Mu Xiao's opinion, Qin Beihe's stupidity was probably even more intolerable to him than her relationship with other men. "I want to go out. Being stuck at home all day long, Lily has been in this world for 2 or 3 days, but she hasn't gone out yet. Now she has eaten and drank enough, she has some strength, and her head is not like it was just now." The pain was severe. When she heard the housekeeper's question, she hesitated for a moment, but was still ready to go out for a walk. The housekeeper nodded, and while softly instructing the maid to send the driver to prepare the car, he respectfully watched Lily put down the coffee cup and then went upstairs. The phone in the room upstairs was ringing desperately at the moment. The cello music that the original owner liked to listen to in the past now sounded harsh in the quiet room. Lily calmly changed her shoes and entered the room. She saw the name stored on it, and the title of volunteer kept flashing on it. Chin Bei likes Du Jianyu very much, and because of this, she is deeply afraid that Mu Xiao will find out about her every move and it will be detrimental to Du Jianyu. The more she likes him, the more she will like this person, even as she didn't even dare to save the name, and only dared to save the sweet title of volunteer. But when Lily saw it again, she felt unspeakably disgusted. She stopped working on the phone after holding it in her hand for a while. At this time, Lily saw that there were more than a dozen missed calls displayed on it. From the time she just had breakfast to now, Du Jianyu started to call her non-stop. While Lily was frowning, the phone rang again. The melodious music made Lily a little unbearable, and she answered the phone impatiently. Is something wrong? Ziahe, where have you been? Du Jianyu seemed not to have expected that she would answer the call this time. He was stunned at first, and then became a little angry. Do you know that I will be worried about you? I'm afraid. If something happened to you, do you know how uncomfortable I feel? What can happen to me in my own home? Lily blocked Du Jianyu, and Du Jianyu was at a loss for words. He pretended not to know in front of Chin Bei that she was married, but in fact he was worried. She clearly understood how afraid Chin Lily was of her husband. In the past, whenever he worried about Lily, she would be so moved that she could not speak. Sometimes when she saw her, she looked like she was unable to speak. Du Jianyu's eyes turned red when he talked about her family. Du Jianyu originally thought that Lily would be very touched if he deliberately mentioned worrying about her. Unexpectedly, when she asked him a question, he remembered that in order to be sincere, he didn't ask anything about her family. Where can I speak at this moment? Seeing that you haven't answered the phone for so long, I'm just worried about you. Do you think I've harmed you? After being coaxed by Chin Bei for a long time, Du Jianyu used to think that such a wealthy young lady had a weird temper. Thinking of idiots like Chin Bei, the feeling of inferiority towards her turned into arrogance and impatience over time. After a few words, her tone changed, and she was afraid that Lily would do it again. If he couldn't answer the question, he quickly changed the subject. You didn't come out over the weekend, Ziahe, did something happen at home? Lily entered the dressing room with her mobile phone. She didn't hear Du Jianyu's words. She didn't speak. In Du Jianyu's view, she looked so sad that she couldn't speak. He wondered in his mind whether Lily was abused by Mu Xiao. So he guessed that this was a good time for him to comfort her, so he said loudly, let's come out today, Ziahe, I want to see you, your brother Jianyu wants to see you. Chin Bei was most touched and liked by him speaking in such a tone in the past. Unexpectedly, after performing for a long time, Du Jianyu's expression at this time could not help but be moved even if he saw it, but Lily he ignored it at all. He suppressed the anger in his heart and asked again. Lily now found the clothes, shoes, and socks she wanted to wear. After matching them, she picked up the phone again. What did you just say? Du Jianyu held back his anger and decided to be cold to Lily after meeting. Then he endured his anger and repeated what he said before. Did something happen at your home? Come out and meet today. After his originally excellent singing performance, he lost his patience after saying that no one paid attention to him several times. He opened his mouth and spoke with a bit of displeasure. Patience, don't worry, no matter what happens, I will stand by your side. I probably don't need you to take care of my own private affairs, Lily said rudely to Du Jianyu. The previous owner was too docile to him, so much so that he dared to be obedient even though he got benefits, and gave in with Fang Jiao's heart. The money he spent to seduce the original owner actually dared to be so arrogant and unruly to others. Lily knew in her heart that even if she was more impatient with Du Jianyu at this time, he would probably swallow his anger. In this case, of course she had no reason to tolerate it, which made Du Jian choke. Yu's eyes turned red, and then he said slowly, "Is there anything else? If nothing happens, I will die." "What are you going to do today?" Du Jianyu really endured his anger and asked again. Lily sneered in her heart, with an impatient look on her face, "I'm going shopping." "Do you want to buy something? You have too many things. You can't use them all even if you buy so much. If you have money, why not donate it to a nursing home to give the elderly some warmth?" Du Jianyu gave her another lesson. Lily was completely fed up this time. She stood up and said, "Du Jianyu, I am using my money, not yours. It has nothing to do with me if you have the money to donate it all." After saying this, she hung up Du Jianyu's phone decisively, and added his name to the blacklist. After shopping outside for a whole day, Lily bought a few pieces of jewelry. Even though she knew she couldn't take these things with her after completing her mission, she bought whatever she liked. Anyway, the money belonged to the Qin family. Rather than leaving it to Fang Qiuxin to calculate in the future, it is better to squander it all by himself. The original owner was too honest and simple in the past. To be continued. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 220. She ate outside for lunch, and when she returned to the Mu family with a few bags in the evening, the lights were brightly lit in the Mu family house. The driver dropped her off in front of the mansion. Lily saw the villa through the huge transparent floor-to-ceiling windows of the villa. Li Muxiao spread his arms on the sofa cushions and leaned back lazily. A black and slender figure knelt in front of him, with a small face pressed against his thigh, as if he was saying something. Muxiao closed his eyes and face showed no emotion or anger. When Lily came into the house, the crisp sound of high heels hit the floor tiles outside. The two people inside did not turn around. Only the maid came to open the door for her and handed her slippers for her to put on. After she did all this, the face lying on Mu Xiao's lap turned around, and Fang Qiuxin's sharp eyes stared at her, making Lily's whole body stand on end. "Madam, the boss doesn't make money just for you to squander it." She didn't feel ashamed for lying on someone else's husband's lap. On the contrary, she looked more confident than Lily, a real daughter-in-law, and held up her half-curled long hair. Stood up. She was wearing a black business suit today, with black garters on her legs. Due to her kneeling action just now, her close-fitting short skirt was slightly raised, revealing the edge of the garters. She looked solemn and calm. It also has a bit of sex appeal. For a person who usually has a cold and restrained expression, once he inadvertently reveals his temptation, he is far more attractive than other people's naked bodies. Mu Xiao did not stop Fang Qiuxin's move. He only showed a sarcastic look on his face, with a mocking smile at the corner of his mouth. His arms were still wide open, but his eyes were opened, making people shiver down his spine. This tacit attitude obviously satisfied Fang Qiao, because there was an obvious gentle smile at the corner of her mouth. She glanced at Lily. Suddenly, he lowered his head and held Mu Xiao's face, and pressed his lips tightly against it. After a while, the sound of the two kissing came over, which was particularly loud in the quiet hall. Lily smiled brightly at the serious and staid housekeeper, and handed the bag she was twisting in her hand towards the housekeeper. "Please hold it for me for a while." Her voice was soft and delicate, which was different from the cold and arrogant tone in Fang Qiao's heart. The housekeeper took the things respectfully, and then saw Lily walking towards Mu Xiao. This woman, who had always been as timid as a mouse, was trembling with fear when she saw Mu Xiao. At this time, she actually grabbed the Fang Qiao was heartbroken as he held Mu Xiao's face. Fang Qiaoxin had practiced Taekwondo, so she should have been able to react in such a situation, but I wonder if it was because she was holding Mu Xiao's face and kissing him before, but now she was pulled away by Lily in a daze. Lily's body was not as tall as hers, but she kicked her slippers aside. He jumped on the sofa and slapped her in the face. This is to teach Fang Qiao's special assistant. How about just being a special assistant? Lily's slap did not hurt Fang Qiao's heart. In fact, a delicate young lady like Qin Beihe doesn't have any strength in her hands. She is just pretending to show off Qiao Xin's face. She dares to find someone to plot and seduce her, and she dares to seize the Qin family's property. At this time the humiliation was just a small lesson. After Lily finished beating the person, she saw the blackness quickly gathering in Fang Qiaoxin's eyes. Fang Qiaoxin was not a good man and a believer. Being with someone like Mu Xiao, how could she be able to become his personal assistant, except that she was willing to go to bed with Mu Xiao? In addition, the most important thing is that she pays equal attention to both means and ability. Fang Qiaoxin had done a lot of shady things for Mu Xiao behind the scenes. Her face didn't hurt at the moment, but being taught such a lesson by a woman she had always looked down on definitely made her a little unhappy. Lily's smile froze when she saw that her fists were clenched, but she quickly sat in Mu Xiao's arms. She saw that his cheek muscles seemed to tighten suddenly, and it was obvious that he was in pain. She just sat down with force. It must have pressed on a certain part of him that was teased by Fang Qiaoxin. Lily felt a sense of relief in her heart and stretched out her hand to wipe Mu Xiao's mouth. Her movements were a little rough, and the lips that had been kissed by Fang Qiaoxin were now as red as blood. A look of displeasure appeared in Mu Xiao's eyes, and he frowned. Just as he was about to reach out and grab Lily, Lily had already touched her with his fingers. He tightly clasped his hands behind his waist, and buried his head in his chest. "Save me, husband, she wants to bully me." Mu Xiao felt a little angry in his heart, and looked at the woman with a bit of laughter who did not have the courage to face her after getting into trouble. He believed that if he didn't help her today, she would be taught a terrible lesson by Fang Qiaoxin. He never cares about his jealousy. It doesn't matter to him who lives or dies. In fact, his own life is not as important to him as others think. Women are just playthings, and he doesn't take them seriously. Superior. But she bumped into his arms roughly, making him suddenly feel something different, as if she had some fun. In addition to her soft body, she seemed to have more to keep him from feeling bored. What's more, the way she leaned into his arms as if it were natural, made Mu Xiao involuntarily stunned for a moment. He was a little surprised, but he didn't feel disgusted. Even Lily took the initiative to throw herself into his arms, making her with his warm and fragrant neck right in his arms. Mu Xiao's mood could be said to be unusually good at this moment, so he originally followed Lily's actions to hug her, but now he automatically hugged her. With just a little force, he hugged her tightly to his chest. "Boss, give Qin Lily to me, I won't let you see the scars." Fang Qiaoxin smiled slightly, and when his eyes fell on Lily, it was so deep that people couldn't see it. She originally thought that her request would not be met with any consequences. After all, she is just a woman. No one can understand like her that women are nothing to Mu Xiao. In fact, this includes herself. When thinking of this, Fang Qiao couldn't help but have a gloomy look in his eyes. The only difference between her and Mu Xiao's other women is that she can do many things for him. She has been handling things for Mu Xiao, and her methods outstanding, unlike other women who just ask Mu Xiao for money or things. Although Mu Xiao doesn't like her at the moment, she won't give up. Since she will let Mu Xiao reuse her, she can get more. She doesn't like Qin Beihe, a useless woman, and this Qin Beihe is not qualified to stand at all. The only one who can stand by Mu Xiao's side is himself. Even if he doesn't like himself, he should be able to get more. A look of determination flashed in Fang Qiao's heart, and her expression became colder. Seeing that Mu Xiao didn't open her mouth after saying a sentence, she instinctively wanted to reach out and pull Lily. But the moment Mu Xiao, who had a smile on his face just now, saw her action, a fierce look appeared on his face, and he stared at her ferociously, with a fierce light in his eyes. "What do you want to do?" The look in her eyes was like a wolf, without any emotion at all. Fang Qiaoxin felt a sudden rush of cold sweat on her back. She subconsciously took 2 steps back. Just now, she was still enjoying the gentle man she was serving. Now, she fell out faster than turning over a book. Even Fang Qiaoxin thought that she was not as strong and calm as ordinary women who like to cry, and she looked down on Qin Beihe's past behavior of only shedding tears when things happened. But now she was still almost provoked by Mu Xiao's performance. With tears streaming down her face, she clenched her palms tightly, digging her nails into her flesh, feeling a sharp pain, and then she became a little numb when she exerted more force. "Boss, I just want to have a conversation with Qin Beihe." Fang Qiaoxin's face was a little pale, beads of sweat appeared on the tip of her nose, her lips were pursed tightly, her face was very ugly at the moment, but she refused to take a step back. She knew that she couldn't behave the same as other women, otherwise she would be rejected by Mu Xiao. Even though she was actually a little hurt at this moment, she still didn't show it at all. "There will be no hurt," she promised again, but Mu Xiao chuckled this time, hugged Lily tightly in his arms, and suddenly picked her up from the waist. Seeing that Lily seemed a little frightened, she instinctively stretched out her hand to hook his neck. A wicked smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, and he tried to throw Lily into the sky, without even looking at Fang Qiaoxin. "Send Special Assistant Fang out." "Boss." Mu Xiao didn't want to tell her a second time, so he hugged Lily and threw her several times, and walked towards the stairs. Miss Fang Qiaoxin was about to stop her, but the housekeeper had already stopped her. Although what happened just now was a bit surprising, since Mu Xiao didn't object, these servants naturally took his words as standard. Fang Qiaoxin was when someone stopped her. Her pride and self-esteem prevented her from making a fuss in public. She just twisted her hands bitterly, laughed coldly, and suddenly walked away without looking back. At this time, Lily returned to the room and saw Mu Xiao wanting to carry her to the bed, so she quickly turned over and jumped out of his arms. The man who had helped her just now had no intention of reaching out and hugging her to prevent her from falling. Instead, he put his hands in his pockets and stared at her with a sneer. "Good skill." His voice was hoarse, indescribably lazy and sexy, but the mocking look on his handsome face was clearly visible to Lily. There was carpet on the floor, so the fall didn't actually hurt much, but if the bones of the hands and feet fell, the posture would inevitably be awkward, making it difficult to stand up for a while. The sense of victory just found in front of Fang Qiaoxin seemed to have been spent in just a moment. As clean as a whistle, Lily stood up in embarrassment, and glanced at Mu Xiao in an embarrassed but depressed manner. She wanted to scratch him to death, but she didn't dare to show it on the surface. Instead, she had to endure it. Overcoming the numbness caused by just placing his elbow on the ground, he managed a smile and said, "I accidentally fell." To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Kidian to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support will. This is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to M to read. To be continued. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 221. Lily didn't dare to quarrel in front of Mu Xiao, fearing that whatever she said would make this pervert feel unhappy again. She just desperately used a less painful hand to rub her other one. "My elbow." When I just fell to the ground, my elbow was propped on the ground. At first I felt sore and weak and a little numb. After a while, it hurt terribly. "Qin Lily, what tricks do you want to play with me now?" Mu Xiao stared at Lily condescendingly, with a somewhat interested look on his face, and his eyes narrowed. I'm really looking forward to it. Now I want to know, but forget it, you will show your purpose one day anyway. He said a few words to himself, sighed and spread his hands, squatted down with his slender body, and smiled dangerously at Lily, but you have to hurry up. I'm not very patient. Now that I think about how to kill you, I'm starting to feel regretful. Lily took a deep breath and cursed Mu Xiao again in her heart. She found that her task was getting more difficult every time. The difficulty in front of her was actually just the tip of an insurmountable mountain. Mu Xiao's character does not follow the rules. He is an extremely willful person. He can do whatever he wants. It seems that nothing can restrain him. After a few days of silent observation, Lily found that Mu Xiao is really not good. Grasp. At this moment, Du Jianyu originally wanted to treat her coldly at first, but after a week later, he found that Lily did not call him in a panic as he expected, but Du Jianyu panicked. Today I called him in the evening. In recent days, Mu's group has a contract with Japan to deal with, no matter how willful Mu Xiao is. But in the past 2 days, I have also been discussing business with the Japanese president who just secretly entered the capital. I haven't been back for 4 days in a row. Judging from his personality, it is unlikely that he would accompany guests. It should be that the president brought something interesting to him, which is why he lingered outside for so many days. After this period of experiments, Lily has determined that her body is now unable to practice martial arts due to the damage of the unknown drug. However, Mu Xiao is too dangerous, so she cannot practice martial arts and starts to try to do other things. She originally thought about collecting goo insects. However, the cultivation of goo insects cannot be achieved in a day or two, and although Mu Xiao doesn't care where she goes all day long, she actually has informants around her, so this path is destined to be unworkable, so she has no choice but to try. She is trying to see if she can draw something like a holding charm. Generally, these things only require concentration. If she is in good condition, as long as she can simply practice Taoism and adjust her condition, she can still draw 2 in a week. The most important. The original owner studied painting before, so it was very easy for her to buy things like cinnabar. It won't arouse suspicion. Qinbei he has his own special studio in Mu Xiao's house. On weekdays, no one else goes in except the maid to clean up. Lily has been drawing talisman for the past 2 days, taking advantage of Mu Xiao not coming back. I wonder if it is because of this mission. It was very difficult, so with her rare concentration, she actually drew 2 holding charms in more than 3 days. If her results were like this in the past, she would naturally be very poor, but now that she doesn't have any martial arts in her body, she doesn't have a lot of time to practice Taoism. In addition, because her body is destroyed, it is difficult to practice Taoism. In fact, the effect of the technique is not great, so Lily is very satisfied with this result. She carefully took the brush and drew on the paper. Her blood was added to the ink to increase the success rate and the power of the talisman. When drawing the talisman, it was important to do it in one go. It was best not to pause in the middle. This Lily was drawn with great concentration. Just when I thought I might succeed, the phone rang. The melodious sound of the cello rang out, and a sudden sound rang out in the quiet studio, making Lily shiver involuntarily. Her hand, which had become so weak from drawing talismans for a long time, trembled, and a large ball of ink fell on the pen tip onto the talisman paper. She went up, fainted in a big ball, and saw that the meager spiritual power above her was completely dissipated in an instant. Lily now wanted to kill someone. She brought her mobile phone mainly because she was afraid that Mu Xiao would suddenly get mad and look for her. Before she had the ability to confront Mu Xiao, Lily was not prepared to confront him head-on. It was best not to be someone else at this moment. She threw the pen away with a sullen face, got up and took a look at her cell phone. There was an unfamiliar phone number on it. She didn't want to answer it at first, but she was afraid that the call would come back to her before she drew the symbol, so she answered the phone. After getting through, he sneered, "Who is it?" "Lily, what's the matter with you? What have you been doing recently? Why does my phone show that I'm on a call when I call you? Have you blacklisted me?" Du Jianyu's somewhat angry voice rang. He sounded like he was gnashing his teeth. Through the microphone, Lily could imagine what his face looked like at this time. Du Jianyu has received calls from Du Jianyu several times since entering this mission, but he has never seen his person Beihee. He only imagined it based on Qin Beihee's own memory. At this moment, he thought of Du Jianyu's face. She felt sick for no reason, so what if I put you on the blacklist? Du Jianyu, the two of us have nothing to do with each other. I don't want to contact you now. Please don't bother me with phone calls anymore. After she finished speaking, Du Jianyu hung up the phone before he could speak. When Du Jianyu heard what she said, he instinctively felt that Lily was asking for fame and status from him. He had seen a lot of women like this, and she was just playing hard to get. On the surface, she was cold and indifferent to him, saying it seemed that it had nothing to do with him, but actually he didn't want to take this opportunity to solidify their identity. He sneered in his heart and was about to coax Lily a few words, preparing to whet her appetite for another 2 days, so that she couldn't bear it anymore. He brought up the matter of their relationship, but before he could open his mouth to speak, a busy signal came from the other end of the phone after the call was hung up. He hurriedly dialed again, but the call on the other end was no longer available, and he was obviously pulled in again. On the blacklist. Du Jianyu felt an unknown fire rising in his heart. He bought another card without thinking. Not long after, when Kung Fu Lily received his call again, she was speechless. "What do you want?" Lily took a deep breath, thinking that Du Jianyu was also one of the mission targets of the original owner's wish, and now she couldn't let him run away without dealing with Fang Qiuxin, so she suppressed the pain in her heart. I asked tiredly. "Xia He, what happened to you recently? Why are you so cold to me? I thought you actually liked me." "Xia He, does Brother Jianyu feel wrong?" Du Jianyu seemed to be heartbroken. He asked with a sense of disappointment. This person's acting skills were not very good, but he used such an exaggerated and rough way to deceive the original owner. Lily smiled slightly. She didn't want to deal with him at first, but she had such a person in front of her all day long to disgust herself, even if he wanted to deal with Fang Qiuxin, but now it seemed that there was nothing wrong with dealing with Du Jianyu first. Anyway, Fang Qiuxin was not afraid even if he sent someone over again, it was just a little annoying. Lily directly hung up the phone again. She had no available candidates, and she couldn't control anyone in the Mu family. The Qin family really felt sorry for her, but in the plot, the Qin family was in crisis at the moment, and she couldn't help. Forget it, at least don't cause trouble to the Qin family. She has a lot of money, and it's easy to find a private detective. Lily thought for a while, put away the drawings, and folded the 2 drawn talisman papers. After it was done, he put it into his chest and kept it close to his body before going back to his room. She found a not very famous detective agency in the city online, called and negotiated to spend 100,000 to have Du Jianyu's information sent to her. As soon as she finished speaking, the detective agency over there he called Fang Qiuxin, who was next to Mu Xiao. "Sister Fang, Madam said that she wants to check the identity of Du Jianyu. Does the boss agree? How much information do you want? Even if it is Mu Xiao's subordinate, not every phone call will fall into his hands. As his personal assistant, Fang Qiuxin would help him block countless calls every day. Only the ones that Fang Qiuxin thought were valuable to Mu Xiao would be transferred to Mu Xiao." She had been doing a good job over the years, so Mu Xiao was very relieved about her, but when the call from the detective agency came, Fang Qiuxin's pupils suddenly shrank. She thought of the slap she received at Mu's house that day at the Chin family's useless good-for-nothing. It didn't hurt, but in front of Mu Xiao, it hurt her heart. Especially when Mu Xiao didn't help her in the end, but stood beside that loser, which made Fang Qiaxin a little intolerable. She is not much worse than Qin Beihe. Except that she has a pair of parents she can rely on, she has nothing that can compare with her. Now that the Qin family is about to collapse, even the Qin family is nothing, and Qin Lily is not. A woman who is qualified to become Mu Xiao, especially an upright one, why would she dare to be so arrogant? Do you want to know Du Jianyu's identity? Fang Qiaxin smiled slightly and gave a few instructions in a low voice, make some fake ones and pass them on to praise Du Jianyu as a better person. You should understand. Although she said this, Fang Qiaxin frowned. She couldn't wait to let Du Jianyu seduce Lily. From the moment Lily slapped her, she wanted Lily to die, and immediately. She was always prepared. After hanging up the phone, Fang Qiaxin smiled slightly when she saw the overwhelming scene in front of her again. Fang Qiaxin regarded Lily as a big-breasted and brainless waste. In fact, Lily did not have a very high IQ, but she was better than knowing how much she weighed. After calling the detective agency, Lily suddenly remembered her behavior. It was possible that she couldn't hide it from Mu Xiao. She had no intention of breaking up with Mu Xiao for the time being, so she notified the serious housekeeper of the Mu family. She herself didn't know Mu Xiao's private number, but the housekeeper did. She knew that after she said it, the housekeeper would notify Mu Xiao. After doing all this, Lily felt relieved. To be continued.